Hey everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Trailer Park. And yes, I am here. We are here. I'm alive. Kind of not quite 100% yet, but you know, that shit happens. So thank you for all the well wishes while I was off being sick. And thank you for everybody's patience for us not having a show for 2 weeks. Kind of hard to do the first Monday because I was still in the hospital. And last week I was just really super tired because I've only been home for a few days. So appreciate everybody's patience with that. Don't get diabetic ketoacidosis. I really don't recommend it. It's not fun at all. And neither is the flu for that matter. But anyway, I am here, and also, so is Beth over there in Pennsylvania.
Howdy, howdy. Can you hear me? I can't see my buttons.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I couldn't put it on mute or not.
Oh, wow. That's okay.
Can't see it. It's too small. Can't see it. So, yes, please do not scare us like that anymore.
Sorry. It wasn't exactly how I wanted to spend that weekend, just so you know.
Nah, yeah, trust me, I can imagine.
But I have to say, so yes, I went in an ambulance, and I spent, let's see, 4 3/4 day if you count Friday night, Wednesday morning. So like almost 5 days in the hospital in ICU, and I don't have any bills at all.
Oh, and by the way, you spent longer in the hospital than I did.
I know. And I wasn't, now, mind you, I was pretty sick, but I wasn't having a stroke or anything like that. And yeah, no bills. Funny that.
Well, I didn't either, because I did eventually get Medicaid, and it paid all my medical bills. But find out after the fact that had I had bills, it would have cost me over $50,000 easily.
Yeah,
I mean, it's $10,000 a day just for hospital stay. Well, up to 10,000, I should say. ICU is 10.
I have no idea what it costs here because we don't get to see that. But
yeah,
and I was just telling Beth, I did not see a piece of paper once the entire time. I wasn't ever asked to sign anything, nothing like that. I have a health card. When I went to the hospital, they swiped my health card, and that was all they had to do. I never had to look at any paper, sign anything, any of that shit. I was just there.
They didn't ask you about your religion or none of that.
No. They asked me stuff like, you know, how long have you been throwing up and things like that, but nothing that wasn't directly related to why I was sick. So that is the awesome experience of single payer healthcare, just so people know. Oh yeah, those people out there.
But you had to wait 3 years to get into the hospital for your emergency.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I think I did have to wait in triage for half an hour, and when you feel like you're going to throw up every 5 seconds, that does feel like 3 fucking years. I'll just say that. And the fact that they wouldn't give me any water or anything because they had to have tests done the way I was or whatever. Somebody made a joke that it was going to be another hour to wait, and I said, if I have to wait here for another hour, I'm going to mug someone for their water bottle because I was really dehydrated and thirsty, but I wasn't allowed to drink anything. Yeah. So yeah, not fun. But like I say, no bills. I won't ever see a bill. You know, and that I am quite happy to pay higher taxes to know that I can go and be in the hospital for 5 days and not have to worry a fuck about it. So there you go. And if you think that that's a bad thing, I feel sorry for you.
Well, it's like I was telling both you and Steve before the show. I've been kind of nosing around locally as far as the political atmosphere because we really here as a Democrat, and I'm not really. I'm a registered Democrat, but I am a democratic socialist. I lean very, very much towards socialism, and so we're general conversation with people. Some of the idiots here think ACA and Obamacare are two different things.
Yeah.
The whole Jimmy Kimmel clip, well, that's true. So, but prior to elections, you know how your different party committees, put out flyers and all that shit. Well, nothing like that happens here. And I'm like, well, people really got to know what the fuck's going on. We have midterms coming up. Although I don't think Pennsylvania is going to have any special elections for anything, I do know a couple states will, because like Jeff Sessions from Alabama has to be replaced, although Alabama is determined not to replace him with a special election. And I think Georgia's having one, or no, South Carolina, Georgia. So I wanted to, kind of see what was going on. Well, I couldn't even find a fucking Democratic committee here. Okay, that's how bad it is. It's like, seriously? And then I did find out that what there is really isn't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. But before we get off too much on a tangent, I'd at least like to
forget about them.
Sitting there nice and patiently. I'm sorry, we haven't done a show in 2 weeks, so. Anyway, Steve DiMarco, who is the host of Atheist News on YouTube. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
I should have cheering or something. I should get on that. But we're just gonna clear up a few things we were gonna discuss before we dive into you and your story. But because some folks may not have known where I and we were the last couple of weeks, but yeah, enjoying my free health care. It's not free, people. I pay a premium every month, so it's not free, but it's really fucking affordable, let me tell you. So yeah,
I want to come up with an alternative fact like abducted by ninjas or something.
I could have. Let's see. Well, the paramedics didn't really look like ninjas, though.
Photoshop. There's all the proof.
Hey, there we go. Yeah, the ambulance.
Well, you could.
A disguised spaceship, and I mean, I was inside. For all I know, we were flying. What's that, Beth?
Well, okay, that little story just reminded me of something. But I was gonna say, you could be like Sean Spicer and tweet an Onion story about you that is basically knocking the shit out of you and thinking that it's great that they totally nailed it. Yeah, they nailed it, all right. You're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, that was rather amusing. I mean, people get suckered in by Onion stories off and on, but if you're the fucking White House press secretary, you're supposed to be smarter than that. and at least know who the real press are. I mean, that's debatable these days, but at least know who's an actual reporter for something and what's in a famous spoof site. Hello. So
yeah, the Onion's been around as long as the internet has. I mean, it's like,
I know.
Yeah. Well, what kills me is one of my con nutter slowly becoming acquaintances. It was like saying how Breitbart and Alex Jones are real news. Everything else is fake, and I'm thinking, fuck. I'm like,
wow, that's really sticking your head in the sand.
That made my brain hurt. Ow.
Well, it's like I posted the other day, was like how they complain about fake news and all this stuff, and it's like Trump's going on about about Washington Post and New York Times all the time, and it's like I think he's worried that we're smart enough to figure out that he's a fucking liar. And
he should be worried about that.
it's like I'm not. I think maybe twice I've been caught where I posted a story that turned out to be not true.
Yeah.
And for me, I usually wait a day or two. That's why I'm always behind, because I want to see how it develops. Is this a real thing, or is this, someone being guilty of hyperbole? The LGBT community's been caught by stuff like that, and so it's the atheist community. And I don't want to be spreading fake news. I mean, that's just not my thing. It's annoying trying to sit there and figure it out. But it's like, we're smart enough to, I'll say, vet, for lack of a better word, our stories before we post them. But it's like, I'm not going to post something from somebody just because it's, WAPO, for example. I'll sit and wait and see if it comes out in other newspapers.
Yeah.
It's like,
that if it's a headline you want to agree with, you want to share it, but first you have to find out if it is real.
I got caught on that with a story that claimed Scientology had lost its tax-exempt status, something that I would absolutely love to see happen. And even worse, the site was created to look like ABC News, and the URL was abcnews.com.co. I didn't click with the .co because, of course, it had all the other stuff of the URL too, right? So I didn't click that the .co was like the wrong URL. And the website had the ABC News logo and all of that. It looked legit. So when I read the story, I didn't even think that I needed to go and double check it, because I thought it was a vetted, reliable news source. I posted the damn thing. And then almost immediately I posted it. And then I thought to myself, why haven't I seen this on any other news?
That's the first question I asked myself.
And see, I posted and then thought about it. And I went and kind of looked around and determined that, oh, fuck, it's fake. And so what I did was I immediately took my post down because it was fake. And then I made a post that said, yeah, if you saw this, I was duped. I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. So it sucks that we have to do that, but
I mean, it doesn't really offend me that Scientology has tax-exempt status, because I don't think any of them should.
Well, that's it. But if Scientology was to lose theirs, that would set a precedent, right? Because while they tout being a religion, if you examine what they actually do with their money, it has nothing to do with any, quote, religious stuff. And I think a lot of other churches would be caught in the same kind of problem. But I want to see Scientology lose it, because they gained it through dishonest means in the first place. So yeah. In case you didn't know, Steve, they bombarded the IRS with thousands of frivolous lawsuits at the same time, and then said, we'll make it all go away if you give us tax exempt status. And so they did. They did not.
I remember reading at some point that they actually had plants within the IRS as employees.
They did, yeah.
Well, but...
Yep. They did.
Yeah.
Yep. They made some people's lives in the IRS miserable. If that's possible.
Absolutely. So that's why I particularly would like to see Scientology use it, because they basically forced it on the IRS in the first place. They were not going to get it. They manipulated their way into it. So out of all of them, I agree, none of them should have it. But Scientology deserves it.
Yeah, they should be first in line.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So I was really bummed when the story turned out to be fake. So one other thing, Beth, you wanted to touch on was the shooting in Quebec City yesterday. So
yeah, what can I mean, what I took a nap, so the last thing I heard, yeah, my nap turned out to be I slept for 5 hours.
No,
I mean,
you needed it.
You wake up and it's dark.
I mean,
has
anything?
Is it the next day? Is it still night?
Yes,
Yep.
and that's why it took me a while to get my senses about me. But the last thing I knew before I lay down was that they were still trying to solidify, but our fine friends at Fox News had basically already jumped the gun and said he was Moroccan Islamic, and that he was shouting Allah Akbar, which the information I had that was just trickling out from Canadian sources, that's not what they were saying. So I thought maybe you could just shed some light on what officially has been said, if anything.
So I've got CBC News on my phone here, and it says suspect in Quebec mosque attack charged with 6 counts of first-degree murder. His name is Alexandre Bissonnette. He is obviously Quebecois, and for Americans that means French Canadian. He's 27, accused of opening fire in a Quebec City mosque. He's been charged with 6 counts of first-degree murder and 5 counts of attempted murder while using a restricted firearm. He made a brief court appearance around 6 p.m. Eastern on Monday. Next court appearance is set for February 21st. RCMP, which is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police for my American friends, spokeswoman Camille Abel said he could later face terrorism-related charges depending on the outcome of the ongoing investigation. According to his Facebook page, which has since been taken down, Bissonnette is from the Quebec City suburb of Cap-Rouge. His profile also shows he studied anthropology and political science at Laval University and was an Army cadet as a child. Laval University confirmed on Monday afternoon that Bissonnette is a student in the social sciences faculty. And in a statement, the university said he is barred from all activities at the school effective immediately until all judicial proceedings are over. Sunday's shooting happened shortly before 8 p.m. Eastern, less than 3 kilometers away from Laval's campus during evening prayers at the Centre Culturel Islamique de Québec. In English, that's the Islamic Cultural Center of Quebec. 6 men were killed and 5 people remain in hospital with injuries. 2 of the surviving victims need more surgery, while the other 3 are stable and may be discharged soon. Another 13 people with minor injuries have been released, according to a hospital spokeswoman. It says only 1 suspected shooter. Another man was arrested outside the mosque within minutes of the shooting. Shortly after noon Monday, provincial police said that man was no longer a suspect, but rather a witness. That would be your Moroccan Muslim. He was actually a member at the Muslim Community Center. Half an hour after the shooting, Quebec City Police Inspector Denis Turcotte said a second man called 911 indicating he wanted to cooperate in the investigation. Turcotte said the man parked about 5 kilometers from the scene of the shooting near the bridge to Ile de Léon and waited for officers to arrest him. So Ile de Léon is a little island that's across from Quebec City proper. Been there myself, actually. It's quite pretty. He was armed and spoke to us about his acts, said Turcotte. As Bissonnette's name began to circulate online, one Facebook group dedicated to welcoming refugees in the Quebec City area expressed, quote, pain and anger over the news. The suspect was, quote, unfortunately known to several activists in Quebec City for his pro-Le Pen and anti-feminist positions at Laval University and on social networks, wrote the Bienvenue aux Réfugiés.as Centreville, Quebec Facebook group. And Le Pen is a French, as in France, right-wing political leader who is very, very anti-immigration. So Bissonnette's Facebook page seemed to confirm those political leanings. The suspect followed several profiles that espouse right-wing ideologies, including that of Marine Le Pen, the far-right leader of France's National Front. A search was conducted at the home of Bissonnette's parents on Dutracel Street in Cap Rouge, as well as a residence on Descarabrage Road closer to the mosque. A woman who identified herself as a neighbor of Bissonnette's parents said the suspect had recently moved into an apartment that he was renting with his twin brother, not far from the mosque where the shooting occurred. Oh, and this is always the same. It says, he's a child, she said. You couldn't find one more calm than that. He never did anything. He always kept to himself. We never heard anything. You always hear, it's like, he was always so quiet and kept to himself. Ugh. Those are the ones you got to worry about, people. I saw him last Wednesday. He was arriving at his parents' home. I think he often went there. The neighbor, who wished to remain anonymous, told Radio Canada. Another neighbor, Réjean Boussière, described Bissonnette as, quote, a young man who's extremely withdrawn. Bissonnette and his brother were not the kind to bother others, Boussière said, but they were not social people. On social media, many took issue with the categorization of Bissonnette as an introvert and lone wolf, arguing that the suspect was spared of the term terrorist because he's white. I would like to point out that from the second it occurred, every news source in Canada said it was a terrorist attack, just so you know.
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, you guys up in Canada, well, pretty much anybody, handle criminal investigations totally different than we do down here in the States. Yes. And the release of information is much different compared to here, where everybody speculates. And part of the reason I wanted you to do that is because when I took my nap, Fox News primarily, there was one other source, and I can't remember who it was offhand, was jumping on the gun saying that it was a terrorist attack. They yelled Allah Akbar, and the guy, was, Moroccan Islamist, and it's like, none of that's even been determined. The only thing I had heard prior to taking my nap was that he was white. And that the one suspect that they arrested or detained and released was actually a witness and was the one who made the phone call to report the incident.
Exactly.
And it's like, I don't know how much you remember of the Breivik situation in Norway. And basically, they didn't release anything. I mean, he as far as media-wise, I mean, they were very stringent about what information they released. And people over here, and I'm going to pick on my Canada friends because they're really fucking pissing me off today. They were jumping the gun, pardon the pun, but they had no information. And I actually kind of sort of had insider information because at the time my landlord, she's from Norway. This was a friend of her family's. And so she was pretty much, as far as what happened, was getting it from the horse's mouth. And it just was very annoying to have to sit there and pick through a story coming from especially American media, and I'm talking mainstream as well as the nut jobs, to try to figure out what actually happened or what's actually been released by
things I want to go over.
And Steve, you probably go through this. I said,
just quickly, there he is. Pretty damn white.
God, he's like 12.
Yeah. I think he's, what did they say, 27? But yeah, he's, you don't get much whiter than that. I think I'm about the only.
Well, there's me. Yeah, you and me.
Yeah, the only people whiter than me are albinos. Just so you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those of you who will be listening on Spreaker without the benefit of video later, Alexandre Bissonnette, look it up. He is white as a snowbank. Anyway, sorry, Steve, you were trying to say something there.
Well, there are just three things I want to address about what you went over. One, that should not be a label of introverts. I am an introvert, and I have never once, thought about doing anything violent.
No, I just think it's weird that every single fucking time in the it was always so quiet. We never heard anything. And not to mean introverts per se, but
right.
Just that seems to be a characteristic that crops up in these situations.
The second thing I want to bring up is what you read in the article was that he was anti-feminist, and it's kind of odd that he would be attacking Muslims as an anti-feminist, because you don't get more anti-feminist than the Muslim religion.
Well, yes and no. I suspect that when they say, and this is just my speculation, no one's made any pronouncements about this at all, but my guess would be that he's anti-feminist in that he goes against the sort of third wave stuff. Now, I could be completely wrong. He could be a male chauvinist pig for all I know, but that's sort of the sense that I get. That it's maybe the more extreme stuff that he is.
Well, the definition of feminist that I go by is that just someone who wants equal rights for women. That's the only definition of feminism I have. So.
Right.
Welcome to the.
Yeah. See, I would call that egalitarian, but that's just me. But yeah, I mean, he could be anti that. I don't know, but I just. Yeah. Judging from the other sort of anti-immigration people and bigots and whatnot that I've come across,
but if it was strong enough to bring it up in the news article, I'm guessing he was pretty hardline.
Most likely, yeah. Most likely.
The third thing I want to bring up is you mentioned before the show when we were chatting that the Canadian authorities weren't releasing too much information. And
That's
I
right.
actually really liked that they were doing that, because the last thing that I think this guy should get is any glory for it. He wanted glory from this. He thought about doing it, and he thought about the aftermath, about how people would see him as a martyr for their cause. And that's the last thing I want the Canadian authorities to do, is to give it a whole lot of press, give it a whole lot of attention, cause an uproar. Obviously, it's horrible act that he did, but I don't want him to get fans, get followers for what he did. And, the sooner they try him, convict him, sentence him, and say, all right, you're done,
Yeah.
Don't give him the satisfaction.
Absolutely. And what I read, excuse me, that was from CBC News. Ooh, got the hiccups all of a sudden. The majority of that was information that was researched by the journalists.
Oh, yeah.
The police have only said his name, his age, that he's been charged with 6 counts of first-degree murder and 5 counts of attempted murder with a restricted weapon, when he's going to be showing up in court. And that's about it. That's all that
I completely agree with the authorities' decision to do that. And I don't blame the reporters for also researching, because it's their job. But, like I said, the authorities are taking the right steps here and just not fanning the flames for this guy.
And in the contrast, they've, as I said, they've identified the 6 victims, and CBC News has blurbs on every single one of them now, and it's been less than 24 hours. Well, maybe now it's just been 24 hours. And like I said, they've got blurbs on every single one of them talking about who they were, the families they left behind. Several of the men had very young children. Three or four of them had children under 2. So, you know, it's one gentleman ran a grocery store in the same community and was considered to be a father to everyone in the community. Another gentleman who was killed was a professor at Laval University in agriculture. So, I mean, it's, and we've got lots of information about them out, and that's how it should be. You know, they should be highlighting the people who were the victims in this, for sure. Oh, and there has been, I just was reading here, there's been a GoFundMe started to collect money for funeral services and to support the victim's family. And in 17 hours, they've raised $80,000 already. And it was started by someone in Montreal to help out. By the name of Romney Cooperman. Obviously, doesn't sound like a Muslim name to me, which I think is pretty cool. So you guys can, anybody can look that up. If you check out the CBC News, we don't seem to have quite the same problem with fake news up here in our mainstream places like CTV and CBC. So, you know, you can kind of trust that still, I think. I hope.
Well, you bring up an interesting point by saying fake news, and Steve, I kind of want your opinion on it. Like, I have over 500 news feeds. Okay, so I have got just 300 just national newspapers like LA Times, WAPA, New York Times, Chicago Tribune, and everything in between. I do have counter news, as I call it, because I have friends that are in the movement who are just total jackwads. But I want to know that perspective, and yes, I do listen to Alex Jones sometimes, and I do listen to people like Rush Limbaugh and all that, so I try to get a wide of views I possibly can, and I have conservative news sources. But I have never really, as far as mainstream media, as people call it, had an issue with them publishing something fake. Now, when I think of fake, I think of totally fabricated. And I find it interesting that, you know, I had actually started rereading, and I'm doing it via audio, so I'm not reading it, 1984. Before this whole thing with the band came out and stuff, and I had generally made a slight comparison of Trump to Hitler. I mean, and this was while he was still campaigning, as much as I hated to do it, but it was just so blatantly obvious to me that it's just like, and if you look at his actions just in the last 5 days, it's even more so. And what I found comical was that yesterday, I think, or over the weekend, the secretary to Goebbels, who was in charge of propaganda for the Nazis, just passed away. But it's just like the more, yeah. Well, and that's the thing. She was kind of from what I could tell from the one article I posted about it was that she regretted what she did, but she still denied that she knew that anything was going on. And I have a really hard time with that on a personal level, but if that's what she says, I'll accept her word that she did not know what's going on. But I have a hard time believing that. But it's so funny because it's like, I mean, I had put out the question, why is Trump governing by executive order? Okay, he has not proposed any legislation yet. Okay, granted, it's only 10 days in, but everything has been done by EO. And it's like, you know, a couple of people responded, well, maybe he's doing it intentionally, and I think he is, because he's giving the Reich plausible deniability. Well, we had nothing to do with it. It was an executive order. But yeah, you're keeping your mouth pretty shut, except for Paul Ryan. He's pretty gung-ho on some of this shit. But it's like, he's accusing the Times, he's accusing WAPO, his two primary targets, of being fake news, and CNN is another one. And I'm thinking, it's like,
in terms of fake news, you started that asking me what I thought of fake news and why it's gotten so prevalent. And I think it comes down to two factors. The news itself, there's the straightforward facts and there's opinion pieces. And right now, the news is really combining the two so that it becomes kind of muddled now. And the other issue is that, do you want the straightforward facts, or do you want to hear what you want to believe? And in a way that just comes down to religion. Do you want the science, or do you want the religion? Do you want the straightforward facts, or do you want, what you want to believe?
Do you want an inconvenient truth or a comforting lie?
Right.
Okay.
And it comes down to the news programs and, their viewers. Oh, apparently the viewers want the lie. So we're going to give them the lie so that we get more advertising dollars. And, so that's sort of the issue right now in my eyes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, speaking of news, you, as it says behind you there, Steve, you do Atheist News, which is a YouTube channel. And you talk about all things to do with religion and atheism as pertaining to news stories. And
some science.
Yes, indeed. I've only watched a few of them, but you like the science and some of the nerdy stuff too. So that's cool. First of all, because this is our first time meeting you as it is. Let's talk a bit about yourself. Like, were you religious? If so, what flavor? And how did you find atheism and all that fun stuff?
It actually started when I was very young. When I was very young, I actually lived in Florida at the time, when I was about 9 years old. And I had never been to church before, but my friends in the neighborhood were going on Wednesday nights. And it was just an excuse to play for an hour in this nice playground. And then we would have to go and sit in for about an hour and listen to a sermon, and then we'd go home. And I did this twice. And on the second time there, the preacher told a story that really had me questioning everything. He told a story about a man who ate a roll, but that the roll was really a scroll. And when he ate that roll, he got all the information from the scroll. And even as a 9-year-old, I was like, what? That is not reality.
What the hell denomination was that? I never heard that before.
I think it was, when I grew up, I looked it up, and it must have been something he just made up. And
wow.
So, and then later on, when everyone lowered their heads to pray, I actually looked up and I was like, there's nothing going on here. Everyone is just lowering their heads and thinking. So when I was very young, I realized, I didn't believe in any of this. It wasn't until I was about 12 years old when I actually found out there was a term for what I was, and that was atheist.
Right.
When I was 16, my so-so religious father got tired of my atheist thoughts and ways, and my stepmother at the time was very religious. So she pressured him to take me to a church, and I resisted it for so long, and finally I was just like, all right, let's get it out the way. And so we went, and people had that very fake friendly
the love bombing,
and kind of like a realtor does with you.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting down, and the other high school students that were there had made a little video about a nerdy kid who was trying to teach them about evolution, and they disproved him. And I was like, that is unreal. I am done. You have lost this argument for all time. So
wow. So did your stepmother have a conniption, or did she get over it?
Well, me and her, I mean, we didn't get along. She was the type of woman who in the year 2000 thought the world was ending, that Jesus was coming and all that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it was funny. I moved out when I was 18 years old. She actually had me paying rent when I was 16. I had to get a job at a grocery store and basically give all my money to her to pay my rent when I was 16. And then, so when I was 18, I just moved out. And then 1 year after I moved out, all of her rage and anger went from me to her new outlet, which was my dad, and they divorced after. I mean,
no.
And he didn't believe me. He's like, "Oh, she's not that bad. No, you know, I'm sure you're just overreacting." And then as soon as I left the house and
you found out
it all, he saw what she was like.
Oh boy. Wow. So was your mother's side religious at all, or you lucked out that way?
I have no idea. My mother actually left me when I was about 2 years old with my dad. And
Gotcha.
she left her 2 kids from her first marriage with my dad as well. So
wow.
Yeah, he kind of took on a lot of responsibility out of nowhere.
Right. Understandable. Well, so you kind of just never bought the Kool-Aid at all. So that's good. Excellent. So what made you decide to get into doing YouTube stuff?
Well, to be honest with you, I was looking for just a creative outlet for myself. And as I wrote to you before, I basically had 3 main interests, and that was atheism, equality on many different levels, and just my nerdy habits, which is movies, TV shows, video games, comics, books. Like, I'm a huge nerd. Unfortunately, I didn't really feel there was a vacuum at all in those other 2 interests. But atheism, there's definitely a lot out there. But when I searched for atheist news, kind of like a news program, every once in a while I'd look for something and I'd get like a YouTube video from 2 years ago. It just happens to mention something, so I wanted an impartial news that would give you the straightforward facts. So that's how I just started it. And my boyfriend's like, "Well, you just can't spend any money because I'm pregnant." So
yeah. Yes, I hear congratulations are in order. You have a new little one.
Yes, she was born last month.
Oh, wow. Really new. Goodness.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I was gonna say, because friends of mine and friends of the show, Ali Rizvi and his wife Alishba, they have a new little one, but she's going on 4 months old, so she's not quite as new shiny as yours is.
Yeah, I was actually going to say something on Secular Nest, because she was born like a week after I joined, but someone else also had a baby girl like 2 days before me. So I was like, I'm not going to steal this guy's thunder at all, and he's proud.
Oh, but you could have shared. You could have shared.
Oh, I didn't want to take it away from him.
Oh, that was nice of you. That's really cool, though. So now you get to experience parenthood firsthand. Not
my
much.
Wife and I, we took our time. I'm 32. She's 33.
Yeah, but that's the smart thing to do. Do it when you're more ready for it, if anybody's ever ready. But you can be more ready than and less ready. So waiting until you feel more comfortable is always good, for sure. But at this point, you won't have had much opportunity to teach her much.
No. Looking forward to that stage, but right now it's something I hold and feed and change.
Yes, that's all right. It'll come. I myself decided a long time ago that I'd rather have cats. So,
we have 3 cats.
We have 5, and they don't listen to anything I say, but they're cats.
I was gonna say they're cats.
Yeah, I know. I laugh because they're not allowed on tables. And the youngest one, who's also a black cat, she loves to jump on the coffee table right in front of us. And when I go, Kelly, or I pick up the spray bottle, she'll walk to the very edge of the coffee table and stop and look behind. Are you really gonna do it? Are you really gonna make me get off? So yeah, she's a little shit disturber. So I've looked at some of your shows. So you really do give a news show flavor. Now you're on your set there, so you've got your atheist news in the background. You've even got like an intro that sounds like a news program. It's actually quite nice and very professional sounding. So good job with that. And I know the way you've got your white background, you can kind of put up graphics and stuff, and that works well too.
Yeah, somebody recommended a green screen behind me instead, and I was like, I have no clue how to do that.
Yeah, I've seen it done, but I don't know how it actually works. It's like what they do in movie studios, but I don't know what.
I think Nicole uses green screen.
Yes, I believe so. A friend of ours who does, he has a channel called Atheism TV. He's got, oh my God, I've been to Nicole's office, he calls it, and the guy has more computer equipment than I've seen in some of the companies that I've worked for that had IT departments. So he's really gone all out for his video production. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he's got a green screen somewhere. He didn't have it up in his office, but I'm pretty sure he has one.
And what does he do on his show?
He does mostly interviews. And he also, when there's a conference that's in my province called the Non-Con for Non-Believers, he usually videos the proceedings, puts those up for the non-con folks. So he travels when he can. He's unfortunately he's got MS, so he can't. But he used to be an actual journalist in Montreal, in Quebec. So he's got the front.
Be a journalist then.
Exactly. He's just doing it on his own terms now. So, and he does a really good job.
Well, and I think that's important, and that's why one of the reasons why I was attracted to you, Steve, was that, yeah, granted, there's a lot of atheist news programs out there. Some lean more towards opinion. Whereas you're pretty much, and Nicole's about pretty similar, is it's just you give the straight up news. You don't really offer too much opinion, but you lay out the facts. And I think, and I'm not dishing the ones that do opinion, because I do the same thing. I mean, that's when I blog. I mean, everything I blog is basically my opinion, hopefully fact-based opinion, but I could be wrong a few times. But I think that's what's needed, where you said you try to remain neutral, and that's, I try to look at both sides of the story. That's one of the things I get accused of all the time. Oh, you don't read other stuff. I was like, yeah, I do, regretfully. And I actually told,
the people who say that probably only read the one thing.
Yeah, exactly. What the funny thing is like the one person I got in an argument about it. But it is like, yes, I have read the, quote, other side. And to be honest, they're not telling me anything. I said, I mean, you go to, Red State's pretty good with their citations, but you go to some of these more opinion-based, not necessarily news, but opinion-based stories, and you will not find a link anywhere. I mean, they have nothing to back up their claims, and it's just like, I'm not going to put that as, quote, news, because you're not telling me anything.
Yeah, it can be difficult for me sometimes, because when I research all my stories, I usually cut about half of them come time to film, only because some of them are either opinion, some of them are an analysis. Like one news story I was looking forward to covering last week was how the women in Sri Lanka, the Muslim majority nation, women there have gotten to the point where they're actually forgetting to learn how to properly sing because they're so oppressed there.
Wow.
And I really wanted to do something on it. And then when I read the article, it was just an analysis of a long-term systemic issue. It wasn't actually in the week news, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, like, I know what I do when I choose a quote story, but like, how do you, or what do you use as a guide to pick and choose your stories? You know, what do you think is newsworthy, so to speak?
Always one issue in terms of what do I feel is newsworthy, or am I just beating a drum, is almost every week a child predator is arrested, and that is a pastor or a reverend or something like that. Every week, I think I'm running into these stories, and I'm like, I think to myself, I did, a story just like this last week, and then I have to stop myself and say, this is newsworthy. It doesn't matter how many times it happens; it still has to be told that it happened again, and it happened with this person.
That in itself, though, is kind of news because, as we all know, our Christian friends like to claim that they have superior morality. And in that vein, a clergy person should have even higher standard of morality, theoretically. And by reporting these stories over and over, it just shows that they're just like every other people. There's no higher standard of morality just because someone's a preacher. They can do awful things just the same as everyone else. And don't feel too bad too. A friend of mine, he goes by Matthew the Apostle. He does a half-hour podcast every week that's only that kind of crime. And he has enough to do a half-hour podcast every week of it.
Yeah, it's rough.
It is.
Well, and the thing with that, and personally, I think it should be highlighted on every atheist news station or news show, is that the atrocities at the church. I mean, my blog was focused on it quite highly. In fact, I used Matthew and I used to trade sources, and it's like, it's not once a week; it's every fucking day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, Deb and I have discussed in the past, like, the whole issue with the Catholic Church. I mean, every day they are doing something to either cover their tracks. It's just, I mean, just that topic alone, I mean, is like, it's very overwhelming.
It is.
It's crazy trying to keep, like, this week, I know I've been going nuts trying to keep track of different news stories, but there's, a certain few things that have kind of hit a nerve, especially since I'm reading 1984. And then I got sent a list of different dystopian literature to read, so I'm going to be working my way through that. But it's like, picking a story is the hardest thing. Is it, what's hot or what's not, or do you, do you
see,
look for specific...
Actually, today on Secular Nest, somebody shared a political cartoon, and it was Donald Trump as the emperor from The Emperor's New Clothes. And
yeah,
I saw that.
So it's him naked, parading around, I'm the greatest, and a little kid in the story goes, he doesn't wear any clothes. And everybody goes, oh! Except in this political cartoon, the kid goes, he's not wearing any clothes. And Donald Trump turns around and goes, that's fake news. And the kid gets beaten up for it.
Of course. Yeah. Have you noticed?
Yeah, I saw a reference to it.
Have you guys noticed that whenever Trump gets pissed at somebody, he always says that they're like a has-been? Have you noticed that? They're like, oh, this like has-been actor. Like even the newspapers, he's like, oh, that old has-been paper. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't work, buddy.
Well,
and this discredit them.
Oh, he is. And you know what, Beth? If you think about it, when he goes off like that, he sounds just like Scientology. Because that's what they released.
Well, do you know he's cozy with, I don't think it's Miscavige, but somebody in the hierarchy? And they have been to visit him? Yeah, it's a rumor.
If that's true.
They're grooming.
I was going to say, they may be teaching him fair game tactics then.
Yeah. Well, and get this one. Kent Hovind is also trying to get cozy with them too.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, and Sessions. Yeah, so I find it kind of funny that these outlier groups are attaching to him, although it's just like, seriously. But going back to where you said that he's, you know, dishing everybody else, and it's like, it's a question I pose. You know, here's a guy who claims to be, you know, a billionaire, but and he has not released his taxes, and he has no plans to release his taxes. And I'd really, and I'll put this out there publicly, really would like to know, where the fuck's WikiLeaks and all this? You know, they love this kind of shit, but they're silent as chirp chirp.
I saw somewhere that they were supposed to be releasing it, but I haven't heard anything since.
Yeah, that was like 7 days ago. I mean, I don't value WikiLeaks at all. I think they're scum. So, but it's like,
well, they've got some L. Ron Hubbard shit on there, though. I'll give them that.
Yeah, okay, we'll give them credit for that. But it's like, okay, so here's a man who claims to be a billionaire, but yet we really don't know what he's worth. And his actions, like this, you know, trashing on other people, it's like, obviously he's not worth very much because he's got to pump himself up.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's all very suspect, for sure.
Sorry to excuse me for a minute. I didn't know how much battery power this was going to use up, and I had a full battery, but now it's at 20%, so I just need to go grab a plug for my phone.
We appreciate you getting the plug, not to worry.
I'll be right back.
That's okay.
Good old cell phones. Speaking of which, I can't remember to plug mine. Yeah, I still haven't found the cord to my old phone.
Uh-oh.
The one that I want to use the camera on. But
yeah. But it struck me because after watching Leah Remini every week, and if anybody hasn't been watching her, she opens the show reading the letter from Scientology that disses her guest on that show, because as soon as they find out someone's going to speak, they write, did you know that first of all, there has been, and they just want money and they want attention, and they're a wife beater or this or that, or, you know, they stole a nickel from a payphone once, you know, any kind of shit they can get at. But they always seem to start with, because a lot of the people that she's been interviewing are either were high ups in Scientology or were other actors and actresses, but they always open with, this person's a has-been. You know, they aren't relevant. And that's what Trump does in all of these tweets. Is he basically says, you know, this person is a has-been, they're not relevant anymore. They're a loser. Right?
Yeah.
And that struck me as sounding very, very much like Scientology.
Yeah, there was an article, and I didn't read the article. I went just by the headline, and I was going to get back to it, but me and my usual, damn it, should have saved it and didn't save it, even though I have 3 fucking hard drives. But if I remember correctly, I don't know if it was Miscavige. As I said, it was somebody within the hierarchy, and they were either attempting to discuss things with Trump. I don't know what the gist of the conversation was wanted to be or anything, but yeah, there are, well, say rumors, for lack of a better word, floating around that is going to have contact or has had some contact. I'll have to try to find that for later.
Yeah, that would be really interesting if oh, and my new favorite, now I've been calling him Faux Cheeto, but one I've been seeing bandied around that I love is Cheetolini. I like that. Although, and Foda and I had this argument before. We don't like calling him an actual Cheeto because that's an insult to Cheetos that are good. So that's why I say faux Cheeto. He's like, the bag of fake Cheetos that have been in the back of the bodega shelf for who knows how long with a coat of dust on it. That's. But
the one I've seen that I kind of like is a Twitler.
Yes, Twitler is really good too.
Yeah, I just find it really bizarre. Now, I keep really strange hours, okay? I readily admit. I mean, usually I am up when most people are in bed, except you. Although the last 2 weeks you've been a pretty good girl, except the last 2 days.
I keep falling asleep and
yeah. But it's like, but I do, try to get my 8 to 10 hours, and some days, like today, it's 16. I don't know why. It always seems to fall on Monday, thank God. But I keep really goofy hours. I'm not into Twitter. I mean, I use it, but I don't. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm very verbose. Using Twitter is annoying. It's like, I cannot fit what I'm thinking in 144 characters.
Or you end up with 10 tweets in a row for the same message, kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, I like it, but I don't like it. I use it as another news source is what I do. But, this guy's like fucking tweeting at like 3:30, 5:30 in the morning. It's like, what the fuck does he do during the day? I mean, this thing is supposed to be our...
I'm pretty sure they don't let you work the afternoon shift in the White House. Just saying.
Well, yeah, I mean, before he became president, I hate saying that word. Sorry,
I'm sure it's just leftovers from his time in the 80s and 90s, going to parties all the time, every night, staying up so late, and now in his old age, he's still in that cycle.
That mode. Yeah, that's a possible. I mean, it kills me. It's like, okay, people yell at me, do you ever sleep? And it's like, well, yeah, I sleep during the day. He can't do that now. I mean, he could before he became president, but he can't do that now. Nope. It's like...
you know what, though? Who knows with that guy? He's... No one can understand that guy.
I think a lot of what he's signing... he isn't the one writing it, so they wake him up for that.
Yeah.
Well,
the scuttlebutt
is... executive orders, they don't seem like they're coming directly from his own handwriting, but the people that helped get him elected.
Well, the scuttlebutt is Steve Bannon and Miller have written some of the EOs, especially the one concerning the Muslim ban, for lack of a better word. It's really not a Muslim ban.
Wasn't Bannon just quoted as saying that there were too many Asians in the tech sector?
Well, yeah, Bannon is a white nationalist.
Yeah, I knew that.
And for people that don't know, he was head of the Breitbart News after Steve Breitbart died. So he is a full-blown white nationalist. Now, I will not call him a Nazi because I don't think he leans so much towards the fascism side, but he is white supremacy, white nationalist. Same thing with Miller. They have made no qualms about their views.
I know one thing about Bannon is that he once had his daughter removed from a private school because there was Jewish children in that school.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, he is, to put it lightly, he is bad news. And the fact that now that he has a place on the oh crap, the one they just replaced the Joint Chiefs of Staff with. Basically, it's high-end security. He will have details that, I'm sorry, that man should not have. But yeah, he's basically turning out to be a propaganda minister for Trump, as far as the way nationalism goes.
Yeah,
but
he said to the media this week, "You all should just shut up."
Yeah, and I find that despicable. If he thinks that that lowly of journalists, whatever flavor, I don't care if you're right wing or left wing, what does he think about us as just everyday people? If he thinks yeah, well, they don't believe in that. I mean, and that's what it's coming down to.
And this is from the political party that used to carry pocket constitutions with them.
Yeah. But it's like, what's a man like that think of just general everyday people? And it doesn't matter what color they are. Just I mean, and that's bothersome, because that is so 1984-ish that it's scary.
It reminds me of the executives at Foxconn, that the industry in China that makes like all the iPhones, iPads, and stuff. The executive at Foxconn said that his employees weren't even human. And I'm sure Bannon has a similar mindset. It's like, these aren't really people.
Yeah. He probably only thinks that rich white people are people.
Yeah.
So if you're allowed to belong to his country club, you're good. But other than that, fuck you.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, and that's not to harp back on this point, but that's exactly what Hitler and the Nazis did, is that they separated people into groups, and then he slowly isolated each group. His first executive order, well, not first like in line, but he went after, I'll say, Muslims, specifically from certain countries, but now supposedly, this is just rumor, he has an EO coming out that will allow discrimination against LGBTQI people. And of course, I'm going to find that very offensive. And basically,
what's crazy is that the executive order he did on banning from those Muslim countries, he left out the Muslim countries that he had business.
He has businesses
with. Yeah.
And also, the court system, delayed his executive order on the ban because it was unconstitutional, and they're going forward with it anyway. And it's like, in the three branches of government in the United States, there's checks and balances.
Yeah.
The executive branch is supposed to listen to the judicial branches on their rulings, but he's just saying no. It's like he's being a dictator.
He is.
Well, this just came in. He just fired Yates, who is the lead acting attorney general. He just fired her because she defend Trump's immigration orders.
She said,
I mean, basically, basically what he's doing is government. He's getting rid of the judicial. And I'm wondering, because he really has not done, I mean, he did, supposedly a story came out today that he's whittled his Supreme Court choices down to 2. William Pryor supposedly, I guess, didn't make the cut. He thought he was too controversial.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, well, yeah, he is, but, okay. Pot calling the kettle black. But it's like, why? I mean, that if I was him, that would have been one of the first things that I would do, is try to get the majority back on the Supreme Court. And he's like, basically, he's trying to abolish the Supreme Court, which was actually one of the pieces the GOTP wants to do, is get rid of the Supreme Court. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't know about for you, Steve, but this week has been like news-wise has been like, what story do I focus on?
Well, that's the issue. Another issue I have with my type of news is that there are news stories that I really want to do, but they have nothing to do with atheism, religion, or science.
Yeah, that's tricky, I'm sure. But one thing I was going to say too that I like is you occasionally do a non-news video, and there was one that you did last week that I thought was really nice. You called it Embracing Atheism, but the theme is basically, hey, you're not alone, and you know, don't be afraid to find other atheists, kind of thing. And I thought that was really cool. And you do stuff on science occasionally. And another one, you've got a little series on famous atheists, which I think is cool too.
Well, I started Famous Atheists because it was kind of easy to do, and I have a very limited schedule. You know, I work a full-time job. My wife works a full-time job. We now have a kid.
Baby.
And Famous Atheists was just a quick 3-minute video that I could put together, and I like doing them. And then after a while, I'm always having these ideas for other videos, but squeezing in the time to do them is just a colossal undertaking. And I have yet to miss a single episode of Atheist News. So Atheist News always has to be the priority, even though I have all these ideas. I have Science versus Religion. I've done 2 episodes of that, where one I went over the Scopes monkey trial and how big of a deal that was. And the other one I did was on gender equality and how religion views gender equality versus how science views gender equality. And cool. I did a video called Star Trek The Next Generation Takes on Religion. And Star Trek The Next Generation, of course, created by an atheist, Gene Roddenberry, was a very secular show. So I really wanted to delve into how the show handled religious themes. And I want to do more on that. And, you know, I did this music video last week, and I actually have done another video that I'm going to post tomorrow, another music video. I don't have quite a title yet, but it starts with how when you're a kid, rain, you know, some kids will be like, oh, rain means God is crying. But when you grow up, you find out what rain actually is. So that's what the video is about.
The one I was told when I was little is thunder was angels bowling.
Yep.
But we know what it is now.
Now we know. Now we grow up and we learn what this stuff actually is. So that's what this music video that I'm posting tomorrow is about.
Oh, cool. That's good. And that's the kind of stuff where if somebody who's maybe not quite over the fence yet, or they're having doubts about things, they can look at something like that.
I mean, it was kind of harsh, but to go on top of that is a quote from Stephen Colbert. He thinks agnostics are just atheists without balls.
Yeah, I know people that think that too. The photo. But I like that. Like I say, you know, somebody who is sort of maybe questioning, or they're almost there. Those are the kinds of things that can make people think that little bit more. Like when I became an atheist at 17, and I was very religious before that. And one of the things that really stuck with me that helped get me over the edge was things like realizing, you know, the Greek and Roman pantheon were created to explain things, and even more so Aboriginal legends that were very, very specifically created to explain very specific things. And realizing over history that kept happening over and over, and like, well, no one thinks that Zeus throws lightning bolts anymore because we know
that's
why.
That's in the music video I'm posting tomorrow.
Excellent, excellent. And that was one of the things, coupled with, you know, formally studying history, that it set the light bulb off for me. And it's an ongoing joke with Beth and I, but it really was like a bing light bulb moment. Holy shit, there's no God. And I was like, the day before was telling people they needed to repent or they would go to hell, So
one thing I actually have a lot of respect for the Greek mythology, because they're the only ones to integrate evolution into their mythology without even realizing they were doing that. Because in Greek mythology, Prometheus created all the animals and he created humans out of clay and he gave them life. Now, what he did when he went to make humans was he took a pre-existing ape clay figure, straightened the back, removed the tail, and he made humans out of that. So it's kind of funny to me that Greek mythology,
that's really cool,
evolution without even realizing they were doing it. They even, thousands of years ago, they saw the similarities and worked it into their religion.
That's pretty awesome, actually. Yeah. I don't remember that particular story, so thank you.
I forgot all about it till you mentioned it.
That's really awesome. But yeah, Beth and I have this thing where, I just kind of went, poof, I'm an atheist, and he didn't quite do that.
It took me 10 fucking years.
Yeah, but you got there.
Yeah,
but there's nothing wrong with either, being atheist.
Well,
is the start of a new outlet.
It is.
Well, it was so ingrained in me when I was younger, to the point where I actually went to college to become a minister. I didn't graduate, and I ended up changing my major beforehand. In fact, I never even finished college. But it's like I jokingly say, had Richard Dawkins written God Delusion in 1986, I probably would have converted in a day. I mean, there just was not the plethora of information available. It was, for me, it was all pre-internet. My first computer was a TRS-80, a Tandy TRS-80. Okay, I remember programming computers with a fucking punch card.
Yep.
And, so, had the internet been around, I mean, I started tooling around the bulletin boards, and then, when news groups became popular, I started tooling around them. But I did not have the information that people have today. I mean, and I would spend hours in the library, but just the type of information and the amount of information that's available today is amazing. I probably would, as I said, I would have converted a lot faster.
There's two ways to look at that too. Is that it can be a little depressing to think about how long ago you converted and realized, this is reality, but how long ago that was, and yet you could still see those colleges are still around, they're still thriving, they're still, but on the other hand, you look at the numbers and you see that, 22% of United States citizens are now non-religious, it's increasing, just not as fast as maybe you'd like to see, but it's happening. And
it's in the grand scheme of history, though, if you look at how slowly religion has ever changed, this change is actually lightning fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, I think what it does for me is I have the perspective of being one that was indoctrinated very young. That indoctrination remains strong to the point that, I mean, I used to wear, in a Jesus camp, not quite as extreme, but still dangerous in my opinion. I've gone to school for Bible and theology. I've studied it. It's just not like, it's not like I've not read the Bible. I've read, which version would you like? I have over 70 of them here. And, it's like, I have a deeper perspective than some people do. So it gives me, more tools to work with. Like I look at people like Dan Barker and Jerry DeWitt, and who were actual ministers and who have that deepness of experience that they can draw on to talk to people that are on the fence. So I think all our experiences are unique. Like we're people who have been atheists or raised in atheist homes since birth. They have their experiences. They can talk to people that have never been exposed to organized religion. Where, like in your case, Steve, you started questioning when you were very young. No, that's, you can talk to those type of people. So I think it's all good. I mean, would I change anything? Yeah, probably get rid of the Jesus camp bullshit, but that's about it.
Yeah. And I think too, Beth's journey, for lack of a better word, is much more common than mine. Like taking time to divest yourself of something that was deeply ingrained over a fairly, prolonged period of time, and going from Beth will tell you she changed denominations several times and dabbled in other things, and it all on the way to full atheism. But
yeah, everyone has a different journey.
Absolutely.
Well,
and there's no shame in thinking it took me this long to figure out. No, there's no shame in that, because what's important is that you did figure it out. You did accept.
That's what I say. You got there eventually. I do consider myself very lucky that it really was a real boom, and doubly lucky because within a few months of me having that epiphany, I left for university. So I was leaving, religious friends. I was leaving, any church that I belonged to anyway. I didn't have to put up with the, well, why are you leaving and why don't you want to go to church anymore or any of that shit, because I was leaving everything and starting over in a new city with new people in a school. And so that deconversion became a non-issue almost immediately. Because
I know in the Mormon community, that's a really big issue right now, is that people who are becoming atheist in the Mormon community, they lose everything, especially out in Utah. They lose everything without Mormonism, that culture. And what's actually interesting is that there are about 8 Oasis networks in Utah, and I covered them before. Oasis networks are basically a church-like gathering on Sunday. But it's completely secular, and they celebrate science, and it gives them that community sense without religion.
Exactly. Actually, one of the main organizers for Oasis here in my province, I was able to meet at an event a few weeks ago, and he wrote a book, and I want to read his book first. But I'm gonna get him on the show at some point too and talk about it, because it's becoming a thing here now as well. And
I know Greta Bosper is organizing one in Canada right
now. The other gentleman's working with Greta to do that. So, and she's someone else I'd really like to get on the show. Her church is the church that I was raised in. So,
wow.
Yeah, the United Church of Canada. And I left it for a Calvinist sect. Go me. Not one of my smarter decisions.
Yeah.
That I blame on peer pressure, damn it. Because my best friend...
Well, at least you didn't go Pentecostal.
After school peer pressure video, come join Calvinism. All the cool kids are doing it.
Exactly. You know what it was? It wasn't too far from that. They were an offshoot of Dutch Reform. And the church was literally across the street from my house. And my best friend in grade school was raised in that church. So she was always, oh, well, you should come. They had a thing they called Kids Club, which was like Sunday school, but they held it on a weeknight. And she's, oh, you know, if you should come to Kids Club. And if you come to Kids Club every week, you know, we'll take you camping with us in the summer. I'm from a single parent household that had no fucking money. We didn't go anywhere. So I'm like, a trip somewhere? Well, maybe I can show. And so I started going to this stupid kids club. And next thing you know, I'm like, you know, sucked in. I was like 13 at the time. Right. So, and I was already trying to be very religious in the denomination I was raised in. And so to me, it was like, well, oh, there's more Bible study. Well, that should be a good thing. Of course, at that point, Bible study meant, you know, we'd read a passage, and they didn't have pastors. The church elders would take turns doing sermons and stuff. And so whatever elder was running this quote Bible study would say, oh, so what do you think that passage means? And so we were all like 13 and 14, and we'd say, oh, well, we think it means X, Y, Z. And he oh, no, that's not right. This is what it means. You know, so it's like, why are we even bothering, you know, trying to figure it ourselves when you're just going to tell us anyway? That was.
Oh, yeah, that reminds me of George W. Bush's his presidential library in Texas. It's interactive. And one question that one of the displays asks is, should we have invaded Iraq? And if you answer no, the machine tells you, no, you're wrong. We needed to invade Iraq for these reasons.
Oh, no. That is very much like that. But I remember, I did finally get to go camping with them. And of course, when we were camping, there was also Bible study. And I remember when they had like this cottage that it was actually a pretty big building, because there was like 10 or 11 of us there at a time. And, you know, we had Bible study, and the first chink in the armor was the Bible study where they taught us that wives had to obey their husbands. And I was like, I went to my friend, I'm like, what is it, obey? And she's like, oh, yes, you know, and I'm like, I don't think I like that.
I did just a little quote from the founder of Calvinism about that passage in that Science versus Religion, Gender Equality video.
Oh, nice. I'll have to check that out. But that was the first sort of what the fuck moment for me. I was like, wait a minute, obey? What?
Oh, yeah. Don't get me started. That's why I did a whole video just on gender equality, because every religion has a serious issue with women, and it drives me nuts.
I know, it's fucking ridiculous. And in that group, that congregation, as I say, they were offshoots of Dutch Reform. So the majority of them were Dutch. And like my friend's parents were actually from Holland. So my friend was like a first generation Canadian, but very, very Dutch. And of those families, any of the women that actually had a job, every last one of them worked in a nursing home. That was the only job any of them had. And they weren't, it was sort of like, well, she really, really needs to have a job, so we'll let her do this. And my friend that I had gone to school with, her total, like, her goal in life was to go to Bible college, meet a nice Christian boy, and have lots of children. Which apparently, according to Facebook, she did.
Well,
although
I don't have a problem with those goals, but it shouldn't be used to put someone down from their interests either. Like if she was like, had other interests and was like, I kind of wanted to go into, something else, a science field or something out of left field, or even if it was something that was feminine, like cosmetology or something. But at no point she should be stopped from doing those things.
as far as I remember, and so we were really good friends from about 11 until I was 17 when well, almost 18 when I left for university. But, I don't recall her ever wanting to do anything else. Was just want to go to Bible college and meet a nice boy and then get married and
then that tells me that the indoctrination happened very early in life.
Oh yes. She had a sister, and I don't remember if her.
I think if given the opportunity, everyone has an interest, everyone has a passion that they could get into, but she just wasn't exposed to that possibility,
Exactly, because that's all they ever did. Like, she went to school. When she was home, she had chores and Bible study and church, and when I was in it, we were taught, you should only marry a guy from that, definitely only a Christian, but really from our brand. You should really marry somebody from this group. And that was the way they were encouraged. And you were only supposed to ever date anyone from that group and whatever. And of course, what started my supposed downfall, I dated a boy from my high school that was a Lutheran and a scientist. And a scientist. He became a physics engineer eventually.
I've had a very diverse dating life because of my atheism. I've actually dated on 2 different occasions a Muslim woman, and I was a secret from the family. They can't know. And I was like, am I really that bad? And they're like, well, let me put it this way. They would rather you be another religion than no religion at all. And then another time are you all right?
I'll live. I still have, people won't know I muted myself, but I still have a bit of a cough left over. So
yeah, and another time I dated a Catholic woman who was pro-choice, which was very confusing to me, but she was very strictly Catholic except for that one thing. So I was like, that's a basic rule in your religion. But we actually got kind of serious after a while, and then she told me that if she moved in, she had to put a cross in every room. I was like, what? No thanks. And then she's like, if we have children, they're going to Sunday school every week. I was like, how about this? I want to compromise. Every other weekend. 1 weekend with me, 1 weekend with you in church and stuff like. Oh no, and it can't be like that. I'm like, there's no compromise here, so it's never going to happen.
Yeah, unless you wanted an abortion, then you were okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, Catholics can be pretty stubborn, for sure.
Ugh. And then after we broke up, she was trying to get me back for quite a while, saying, "Oh, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know why I became so religious." I'm like, it doesn't matter because I think it would come up again at some point. At some point,
it would creep back. Oh, totally. And you got to know too, because obviously her family is Catholic. Once kids were involved, there'd be all kind of pressure from that side to make them Catholic. Like that's just bound to happen, because if she was already thinking that way before, imagine what would happen once the in-laws got involved.
It's just that indoctrination that happens at a young age. The 2 Muslim women that I dated, one of them told me that when she did get married, she plans on being incredibly subservient. And this was a woman who was in college, incredibly intelligent, studies science. But when she got married, she did all those things. She became incredibly subservient, never got a job, covered her head in a scarf, and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe that.
I don't get that either.
What's kind of bizarre is, like you said, you dated both a Catholic and a Muslim woman, is that in either case you would have had to convert to one of the religions to even get married. And
that was never an option.
I mean,
and you don't.
Yeah,
have
it's like.
I mean, legally, you don't have to.
Well, no,
you don't have to legally, but
from a legal, yeah.
You can have like a justice of the peace, whatever. But those 2 religions in particular, tend to be very much, if it's going to be a quote mixed marriage, the non whatever is going to become the whatever. And
that's part of the dating process. You gotta filter that stuff out.
Yeah, I was lucky because the relationship I had. I mean, he was a Lutheran, but very much, that wasn't very important to him. And what we used to, I love debating. Beth, I'll tell you, I'll debate anyone, on even the total moron. I'll debate them because I like the practice. But we used to debate all the time, and we got to debating religion. And like, I belonged to in our history classes, we had debate club and whatever, and I went to a hick school, Steven, so we didn't have like a real debate club, but I mean, I loved it, and I was reasonably good at it, I thought. But whenever I debated religion, I could never win. And that was another thing that set me going, was why can't I ever win when I'm debating religion? Because I'm a pretty good debater. And yeah,
because when religion comes up, it's not about the facts.
Exactly. But I was 16, 17 at the time. I didn't know any better. I was just like, but this stuff's true. Why can't I defend it properly? And that was one of the things that got me thinking about it, and on top of the history stuff, and that led to that light bulb moment. But he was never terribly religious. I lost track of him after he got married, but he was actually the quote maid of honor at my wedding, which was kind of fun, because
maybe he watches the show.
I don't think so, but I probably, I know he's Steve as well, so yeah, I found him on Twitter recently, so I think.
So you were saying hi to me, but in your heart you were saying hi to me.
Well, no, I don't know. I'm assuming he's still married. He's a professor at Carleton University in Ottawa now these days. But and I'm kind of married to somebody
Professor
else.
What?
I'd have to look it up. It's to do with engineering. But he always had his hands in a lot of different. He's one of those people that was good at every fucking thing he did. Like, yes, he was a physics engineer, but he could write poetry, and he could write excellent short stories, and I
can't imagine a physics class at a Lutheran college. God did it.
Oh, no, it wasn't Lutheran school at all.
Oh, okay.
He went to McMaster University in Hamilton, and I went to the University of Waterloo, which I realized that I was one of those clingy girlfriends from hell. If I met me at 16, I'd smack myself in the face. But the poor bastard couldn't even go and play D&D with his friends without me like pitching a fit because I wasn't invited. So I was terrible.
I mean, it's a personality thing. My wife gets upset if I go to the store without her. I'm like, well, I was just going in for 5 minutes. Yeah, but I wanted to go with you.
Yeah, but the one summer he went on vacation with his family, I knew what day he was supposed to come home. And I remember that day, and this is 1989, okay? So we got no cell phones, no computers, no any of that. So if he wasn't physically in his home, there was no way to contact him. And I remember that afternoon when he was supposed to come home, sitting by the phone and phoning him every 5 minutes. Is he home yet? Is he home yet? Is he home yet? It was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And I mean, when we were talking about going to university, I was already because the university that I went to is known for its engineering programs, and he had applied there. So I applied there, and I was like, oh, we'll get married and live in the married student apartments and all of this shit.
I mean, to be fair, I wouldn't really slap yourself. I mean, that's the emotional intensity of being a teenager.
It was, but I also know that it came out of major insecurity. Like, if I let him out of my sight for 5 minutes, he's gonna leave, that kind of thing. So I know where it was coming from. But in the end, he ended up going to McMaster because I got accepted at Waterloo, and he didn't want to go as well as me. So, but you know what? I mean, we broke up, and I was pissed at him for about 3 months. And then I decided that I'd rather have him as a friend. I didn't want to lose the friendship. And we were friends for many years after that.
So, like, no Notebook type moment?
I've never seen that. So
oh, really?
I hate chick flicks, just so you know.
Like I said, I love
if somebody says romantic, if somebody says romantic comedy, I'm like, no, I'm out of here.
Oh, come on, there's some good ones.
I don't like them. I don't like that kind of.
I just love stories.
If they don't have shit that blows up, not worth watching.
I love those too. I mean, I just love any.
I don't know. I just can't. I can't get into like this super sappy shit. I don't know. I'm apparently a shitty woman the same way I'm a shitty Canadian.
No, come on.
Oh no, but I am a shitty Canadian for sure.
You could flip that around. If a guy doesn't like the Transformers series, then he's a shitty guy. I mean, that's not true.
Oh, I know. It's just the cliche that, you know, well, women like chick flicks. I'm like, no, not all of us. No. I don't know. It's like, you know, all Canadians like hockey. I fucking hate hockey. And winter, and beer, and I don't like Tim Hortons coffee, and I don't like the Tragically Hip or Rush.
I don't like hockey either, but I told someone who's a big hockey fan, I was like, you know what? All they would have to do is add a second puck, and I might watch it just because how crazy it would get.
Well, then they'd be beating each other up over both of them.
It would be more action to watch in my view. Like, for me, it's kind of slow.
Well, you know the joke, I went to a fight and a hockey game broke out. Yeah.
That's an old one.
Yeah, Beth used to play professional women's hockey, so she's more Canadian than I am.
Not professional. I didn't get paid to play.
Okay, well, she played a lot of women's hockey all over the place.
How many fights did you get in?
Long before they formed the women's NHL.
Steve asked how many fights. How many fights did you get in?
3.
Okay, well, that's not too bad.
So you played like one game?
No, I played for 26 years.
Wow.
And I retired. Yeah, I retired the year before they put women's hockey in the Olympics. Not that I would have been good enough to make the Olympic team, but I have friends who did the first Olympic team. But yeah, it's my fourth or fifth year they put in. Basically, we went no fighting. If you fought, you got banned. And then they went to what was called no checking. The reason being, when I started playing hockey, I'm only 5 foot tall. I was one of the biggest players in the league.
Whoa.
When I retired, when I retired, I was one of the smallest. One of the reasons I retired is a girl who is 6'4", 240 pounds of solid fucking muscle, decided to make me part of the boards in the glass, and she broke my hip.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they went no checking because the size disparity. I mean, what I had taken a check from one girl. Granted, I was not real sober that game. Never play a hockey game drunk. But she had checked me at her blue line, and I ended up on my blue line.
Damn.
Yeah, she hit me so hard. It was clean. It was legal. I mean, as I said, probably being a little tipsy didn't help. I was during my drinking period. But the size disparity became so obvious in the league that they did it more for safety. I played both in the States and in Canada because I grew up in Buffalo, but most of the teams were Canadian, and there were like I think there's like 5 now U.S. teams, but like I played in Batavia. There was a team there. There were 3 teams where I grew up, and then there were a couple, but yeah, I mean some of the girls I played against like were over 6 feet tall. I mean, yeah, they were big girls, and the skating ability on a lot of them were just. I would put them up against any pro.
Yeah,
they were really. I was not the most graceful of hockey players. I was more of a grinder. I took after Brian Spinner Spencer for any former Buffalo Sabres fans. But yeah.
You sound like you would have enjoyed roller derby at the time.
I actually tried out for roller derby. But yeah, I was too small then. But I actually have one friend who did. I don't think she does it anymore. She's my age. She did roller derby for years. But yeah, that was real big for me growing up, was the women's roller derby, and something I always wanted to do. I was a better roller skater than I was a ice skater.
Well, see, now the one Canadian thing I did do was I did figure skating.
Yeah.
So I did that for a number of years.
Toe pick!
Toe pick is right. I don't think I could skate on hockey skates without a pick. I'd fall on my face. Because I'm so.
It took me almost 6 months to convert because before I started playing hockey, I used to I won't say I used to figure straight, but I used figure skates, and the changeover.
Pretty much every girl, it's like if you're going skating, here's figure skates.
Yeah. But I mean, I started skating when I was like 7, so it was like maybe by the time. But yeah. I mean, with hockey skates, so. But what was that one movie? Was it? I want to say Ice Castles, but I don't think it's right. Oh,
I know yeah, I remember.
That's right. The hockey player that gets injured.
Has to do pairs figure skating. Yep, I remember.
Yeah, because he got injured, and I think it was something with his eyes, if I remember. Yeah, that used to be one of my favorite movies, and that was my favorite line when they used to yell toe pick because I could so relate.
Yeah.
It's like when I went from regular roller skates to inline, rollerblades, and it was just like, yeah, I discovered that I'm not a very good inline skater. Now I just go in circles. Actually, I'd be afraid to try to get on skates now because my balance is so bad. But yeah, my one leg's shorter than the other, so I have a my dominant side is my right side, but that's the side I had the stroke on. So it's like, yeah, I'd be a mess on skates now.
You'd have to wear those the ones for toddlers with the 2 blades on.
Yeah, 2 blades and some.
So you don't ever attend a game and think, man, if just one more person gets injured, they might have to call for help from the stands.
I did years ago when obviously before I had my stroke, but years ago I used to think I would go to some of my old team's games. In fact, they're still around, and I would kind of think that a pro game. No, I never had. I was never that good of a player. I mean, I played against people that probably could hold their own in the pros, against the men, but I was on a men's team for a while, and I was a backup goalie. I was a goalie for years, but I stopped being a goaltender when I blew both my knees out at the same time. Yeah, I've had 7 knee surgeries, 3 on one leg and 4 on the other. So yeah, my knees kind of look like Bobby Orr's. So, I mean, I still played it, but nothing. I primarily was a defenseman, but I got kind of into playing goalie. The one team was practicing, and they only had one goalie, and they wanted to have a scrimmage. My God, I had more fucking bruises from their slap shots, because I mean they're much harder than what a swimming could generate. I mean, it's like these pucks were coming at me at 90, 100 miles an hour, whereas in a women's game, maybe 60, 70.
Oh boy.
Unless, yeah, I mean, I had the exact same padding on, and it's like, I had like bruises on my collarbone. I was like, no.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming up near the end of the show, so I want to give Steve an opportunity if there's anything else you wanted to talk about and with anything in regards to your show or topic you want. We have 10 minutes or so.
Not really. I mean, like I said, I've got such a busy schedule, but this is my passion. So it's just a matter of working in the time to get these videos made, because I have all the ideas, I have all the things I want to do in my head, and it's just I find the time, I get these videos out. Priority every week.
You haven't been doing it all that long either, have you?
Since September.
Yeah. So, for the short amount of time, I think you're coming out with some great content for sure.
Yeah, that's what's always burning me up is, I want my subscriber base to go up, and I'm like, man, I wish I could just have the time to put out more content for them, because I really appreciate, people watching the videos and becoming subscribers, but I just it's rough, sitting on these ideas, want to do them so bad, and my wife, I come home, my wife's like, I need you to take the baby. I'm like, of course, that takes precedent, over anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I say, my friends that I was talking about with their new baby, Alishba, the mom, she's an atheist activist as well. And, she was saying, right now I can't do anything because I am food source. So, we actually had her on the show a week or so before I got sick, and that was really nice. But it's going to be a challenge, but I think, considering you haven't been doing it that long, you're doing a good job, and you can only get better from here, right?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. And
that's one of the reasons too I wanted to
go ahead.
Wanted to have you on. What was it to get other people interested in what you're doing and getting the subscriber base up. So hopefully this will help a little bit.
Thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. And since we were talking about Alishba and that, it made me think of the other show we did about what was going on in Pakistan. I actually have some updates about that. Unfortunately, I didn't think to copy the news story over to my Chrome browser because I usually use a different browser. But 2 out of the 3 men that we reported as being missing have been returned home. So
awesome.
Yeah. And I noticed you covered that on your news. I noticed there. We were really, really fortunate that only like 2 days before that story broke, I made Facebook friends with a Pakistani atheist who was still in Pakistan, who was able to get us some inside source material. So that was kind of cool. But Haider, the human rights activist, he is one of the ones that was returned home. So that's really, really good to hear. And they were returned home in good condition as far as anything I've seen. So
have they spoken out yet?
No, not yet.
That's what I'm curious if they are.
Absolutely. You'd be interested to know our source in Pakistan. They thought that the government was actually involved in what was going on because the one fellow, and I don't know if you saw this, there was another fellow who had posted on his Facebook that the police were there trying to get in his building, and he escaped out his neighbor's balcony. And the other thing is that the gentlemen who were taken that managed secular websites, they always use pseudonyms, and our source was like, how else are they going to get the names of the people who behind the pseudonyms unless they were some sort of government entity that could get a hold?
And a nation like Pakistan is trying to get control over social media right now.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Exactly. So yeah,
and just a quick note. Supposedly, Trump is going to be adding Pakistan to the list.
Oh, motherfucker!
But there's no. Yeah.
Fucking
hell. So that's gonna make it even more. Harder.
Difficult.
More difficult. God.
More bad.
Yeah, for friends that we know that are Pakistani in origin and still have family there.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I had brought up to one of the haters here in the town I live in, and I said, I have personal friends being affected by this, and basically the response was, sucks to be them, and I'm thinking
provinces of India and Pakistan has a lot of history with the British, so that's going to be another interesting, because the British Prime Minister has yet to condemn Trump for this ban.
Yeah.
So
lovely.
Yeah. Well, what makes it even harder, like there's a story I saw earlier where a gentleman and his family were detained, and he was fucking Indian.
Yeah.
From India.
Well, and the other one,
he's like, it says it right on his passport, and they still detained him. So it's
the information going to these agencies is conflicting, and one story says one thing, another story says another thing, and even the own agents, like Homeland Security said one thing, and then another agency will say something else. So the people at the airports probably are just making shit up as they go along because they aren't sure what's the fuck's going on, and it's ridiculous. And the one story I saw was a family that was detained, and one of the detainees was a 5-year-old boy that they kept away from.
Yeah, I just saw that.
They kept him away from his mother for something like 14 hours. And people were like, what possible danger could this 5-year-old boy have?
And these detainees, they're not being fed. They're not being given access to legal advice. It's wrong.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's
Oh, and speaking of legal advice, I know we have some people within the community that are very active with ACLU, and I had gotten a news brief, for lack of a better word, that they raised more money this past weekend than they did all of last year. It was like $25 million. But the thing that's really, really impressive is the fact that they are basically getting any lawyer they can get their hands on, offering free legal advice. They're going to these airports, Dulles, RFK, all the different airports
the congressman
to offer help.
Went to the Dulles airport to hand them the court order that says give these people access to lawyers, and they still wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Cory Booker ran into the same problem. Pennsylvania, they had the same problem here in Philadelphia. And one of the criticisms I put out when this first broke, and I was a little bit ahead of the prime news, was where the fuck were the Democrats in this? And I have to say that obviously my opinion has changed because now they are actively involved in this, is that a lot of the Democratic representatives, sorry, my tongue is not working today, are actually going to the airports. They are actually very actively involved.
I understand people's frustration, like, where are they? But they're busy dealing with all the other stuff that Trump has done so far that they were like, we're working on something else.
I think part of the problem, the more I've kind of read into it, is that they didn't know what was happening until, like, there was a delay.
Well, like Elizabeth Warren sent something out, and it's like she was probably still dealing with the Women's March from the previous weekend, working on drafts, legislation, statements, and it's like this comes up now. It's like, man, they're being overwhelmed with trying to keep up.
Oh, for sure. And I think that might even be part of the strategy is,
that's why Trump has done so many executive orders.
Just keep dropping the bombs here and there. And they're so busy trying to catch the last one that they won't notice the new one. It's scary as shit. I
was going to say, just big applause needs to go out to ACLU and all the attorneys. There are many not even associated with ACLU that are offering their services pro bono. They're just showing up at the airports, and there were a couple photos that I saw.
Yes, that from one guy's. You need help.
Yeah, there's just some of these lawyers aren't even immigration lawyers per se, but they're trying to get representation to these people. And as Steven said, a lot of the people at the airports are segregating these people. They're not allowing them to speak to lawyers. And what's really, 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 really sad about this is that most of the people, I'm not saying all, but most of the people are green card citizens of this country.
Yes.
These are people that are legally allowed to be in this country. They have their green cards. They have all the paperwork that they're supposed to do. They've gone through the vetting process. So, and there's numerous stories about doctors, lawyers, scientists that who already had jobs lined up to come to, that are being denied. They can't even leave. I know there was at least one Iranian, for sure, that she was supposed to. Her research was into curing tuberculosis, and now it's everything's all up in the air. So this is just a major debacle.
It's an example of how xenophobic ignorance is destroying everything of value related to the people that are targeted. And it's ridiculous. And the stupid part is...
And Spicer said this week that they were just being inconvenienced.
Oh, I
know. We want to go on dickwad there.
And the stupid thing is, and there's a meme going around, and it's true, is because they're all going on and on about, preventing terrorism. Well, guess where the 9/11 terrorists came from? Not one
Egypt and Saudi.
Yes, Egypt and Saudi Arabia. And Trump's still kissing their asses. There hasn't been any known terrorists from the countries that have been targeted.
And the thing is, this ban, for lack of a better word, isn't even targeting the right people.
No.
the whole gripe is about refugees. These people aren't refugees. These people have green cards.
Exactly.
These people have their visas.
They have jobs.
It's like, they have jobs. It's like. And like you said about piling this shit on, hoping something will stick, it's like now we're going to be dealing with a possible LGBT issue on top of it. It's like, I already live in a state where, not that this is an issue where I work now, where I could walk into my job tomorrow and have them tell me I have no job because I'm gay. Or they could come up and say, we don't want to rent you because you're gay. And yes, I have been through that before. I lost a job and I lost a promotion because I'm a lesbian. It's like, we don't need that, quote, codified into our federal laws. I mean, those of us that are LGBTQ and we have enough fucking issues as it is. I mean, I'm single. I could get away with, not, but what about couples? They want to rent a place. Oh, well, we don't have to. I'm protected. I don't have to rent to you.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, he's just throwing shit on the wall, hoping something will stick.
Ugh. Well, we should wrap it up,
Sorry.
folks. Oh, no, that's okay. It's frustrating as hell, I know. And like I say, I only have to
you
live.
should never apologize for being passionate about an issue like that.
Definitely. So before we go, Steve, do you want to put your information out there where everybody can find you? I do have your channel linked in the description, but
thank you. That's my goal right now, is getting my subscriber base up to that 100. That way I can change the address to just Atheist News instead of, a bunch of consonants and letters, because it's hard for me to promote the show and say, hey, check out youtube.com/Atheist News, because now all I can do is, provide links.
Yeah. So, and you're on social media, or?
Yes, Twitter, Facebook, at Atheist News Show.
Yes, and Secular Nest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and for those of you who may not know, Secular Nest is an alternative to Facebook that is strictly for secular folks. So that means you don't have to look at...
There's no mobile app yet, and that's something that's really frustrating people.
Yeah,
as soon as the mobile app gets made, I'm sure it'll blow up.
It will. It's coming. They have a lot of good stuff in the works, and it will be very, very similar. But the nice thing is, because it's all secular, you don't have to look at, Aunt Betty's stupid, click like to pray bullshit, or, Uncle George's pro-Trump bullshit or whatever. It's strictly secular, folks, and it also means that people can be freer in their expression for those that, kind of self-censor for other people on their Facebook and whatnot. So it's going to be a really great thing. It is good already. It looks and feels very, very similar to Facebook, so it won't be too unfamiliar, and I definitely recommend it. I think it's going to be awesome. Like you say, once the app gets out, which they are working on, it's really going to explode. So yeah, we're all on Secular Nest, so you should check us out over there too. So, and as you say, Twitter and all that fun stuff. So check out Atheist News, and it's a good channel. He's got some good stuff up on there, and he said he's going to post something new tomorrow. So awesome. Yay. Beth, where can we find you?
Easiest way is on Twitter, Dune9998. That connects to, my kind of non-existent blogs. I haven't been blogging much. I've been posting mostly on Facebook, which is Beth A. Hambridge, and I cross-post between SecularNet, and I also cross-post to Google+. So pretty much that's where I've been focusing my writing. I just cannot get it. It's just too much going on to write. It's just like, So, but yeah.
Awesome.
Twitter's easiest.
Awesome. And
where can we find you, ma'am?
Well, I was going to say one place that people are most likely going to find both of us is going to be ReasonCon coming up in April. I'm so excited. I got my ticket. So, and Beth is definitely planning to be there unless something falls through. So yeah, Beyond the Trailer.
Where's that?
That is in Hickory, North Carolina.
I'm in North Carolina.
You need to come to Hickory, dude. It's like podcasting mecca.
I actually emailed them saying that I'd be interested in going there and speaking if they were interested, but I never got a reply.
Well, I think they already had their speaker list done up, but You should come anyway, because the who's who of atheist podcasters will be there. And it's gonna be fucking. I went in 2015 and it was fucking awesome. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. As I said to someone here, it's gonna be me and a couple hundred of my closest friends, because I pretty much have almost everybody on Facebook. So it's pretty awesome. So you should. How many hours away are you from Hickory?
Roughly? I'm outside Charlotte, so not that far.
Oh, for fuck's sake! I'm flying to Charlotte. So, yeah, no excuse. You need to show up to ReasonCon. No excuse.
It's a matter of getting the time off work, because I work every weekend too. So, like I said, that's my is that I have work every weekend. If I can manage to get off on the weekend, my wife has to get off too, because there's no daycares that work on weekends.
It's baby friendly. You can bring baby, but it's what was I gonna say? You've got like 3.5 months to try and get the time off, so get cracking, dude.
It's something I want to do. I will say that.
Get that request in.
I don't want to get my hopes up either.
I know. We'll put it.
Worst comes to worst. If you can't get the entire weekend off, at least get Saturday off, so you can go to the Saturday shindig.
Yeah.
The stuff going on. Because we have a couple friends that are only coming for Saturday. So
yes. Yeah, I went for the whole VIP thing, so I'll be there on the Friday. But yeah, I'm like flying to Charlotte and getting a ride in. So if I can make it from fucking Canada, dude. It's awesome. Our really good friend Dave Foda is in the Charlotte area too, actually, which is kind of cool. But yeah, so Beth and I should be at ReasonCon. And also, because I do appear Sunday mornings at 12:05 a.m. on Holy Crap, the vlogcast, and the Shujin Tribble is also going to be at ReasonCon. He's already got his ticket. He's bringing Tiny Tribble with him. And Bridget, who is also talent on Holy Crap, is going to be there. So if you also watch Holy Crap, there are going to be at least 3 of us there. I know Dallin was looking at the possibility, but he's coming in from Calgary, so I haven't heard if he was still going to try and make it or not. But definitely 3 of us will be there. So there's that. And you can find the rest of us at holycrapthevlogcast.com, where we are on every Sunday morning at 12:05 a.m. to hopefully take away from those woo meisters at Coast to Coast Radio, because who wants to watch that? I know, Beth's like, but yeah,
I still listen to it, believe it or not.
I know, but you got it's know your adversary, you know.
Yeah.
That's one of my biggest mottos is know your adversary, know what they want, and never give it to them. That's my main motto. But anyway, so you can find me there, and yeah. Other than that, I think, and of course, we always like to talk about the Taylor Scholarship, which comes from Whitefields Educational Foundation. They are a group in Utah that provides counseling for people who are leaving religion, and the Taylor Scholarship provides money for people who need the counseling but are unable to pay for it. And that was, of course, started by David Michael from My Book of Mormon podcast. So the URL is whitefieldseducational.org/My Book of Mormon podcast. And so if you feel like finding a good cause to donate to, we definitely endorse that one. So there's that. We do have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a few bucks our way, that'd be awesome too, because it helps us pay for Spreaker and that kind of stuff. So there's also that if you want to throw some our way. And eventually, someday, if we get a good amount of patrons, Beth's going to need a new computer at some point soon. But we'll worry about that one of these days. So I think that about does it for this week. Beth has been doing a good job. She actually tracked down Steven to come on the show while I was laid up in the hospital, so that was really awesome. I'm trying to remember, did you get anybody for next week? Yeah. I should probably have asked that.
Let me look. I don't think so.
Right now. So
well, that's okay. That's live for you, you know.
No, but I don't have anybody yet booked for next week.
That's okay.
I have a couple feelers out for some people, but I haven't heard anything.
Well, I am in the process of working out a date with Ali Rizvi to come and talk about his book, The Atheist Muslim. We're talking sometime in March, but we haven't ironed out a date yet. But I will get on his case because I'm actually going to go visit them this weekend. So I will get on his case and get a date for that. So, yeah, Beth has to get reading. It's a great read, though. I highly recommend it.
I have to get the book first.
I know.
I'm sure there's more people on Secular Nest as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's actually where I've been mining. I'm looking for newer shows, and especially, you know, like podcasters that are just starting out. So if you guys, you know, have any suggestions, we are more than open to them, because I mean, the louder we are, the more vocal we are, the more we're going to be able to do. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, big issues like what's going down right now, but small things, you know, like just as an example, a Christian flag at a public park memorial or something, you know, people that are doing things within the community, because like I'm going to use FFRF as an example. They are taking a lot of shit from people because they are litigating cases like this, that you know, and some of the derogatory statements towards them are borderline vile, but some of them are just horrible. But people don't realize it, and I've brought this up, you know, before, that these little issues such as a flag in a park turn into big issues when they secularize the cause, and that's basically what they're doing. We're getting so used to this happening, like In God We Trust on our money. People think the founders fucking did that. No, that was done in 55, you know, in reaction to the Red Scare. But it's become, I mean, that's becoming so commonplace that people are just saying, oh, you know, let it be. No, you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile, and we're seeing the fruits of that labor right now.
Exactly.
So the more people we can get on talking about those issues, the better.
Absolutely. So yeah, if anybody has any suggestions, or if you have a show, starting a show, let us know. You know, we'll talk to you. Definitely. So we will be here next week. Don't know what we're talking about, but we'll find something good. Don't you worry. I laughed because, and I felt so bad, Steven, because when I was on Holy Crap Sunday morning, Saturday night, whatever, we plug our stuff at the end of the show, and I had planned to ask Beth. I was like, I know she has a guest, and she fell asleep. And so I got to the end of the show, and I'm like, yeah, I have a guest, but I have no fucking clue who it is right now. And so my apologies.
No problem.
That's what happened.
I never even thought of that.
I didn't know who I was either.
Well, that's okay. That's what happens when you've been sick for a couple of weeks, let me tell you.
Sure.
Anyway, so folks, meet us back here next week. And until then, we will leave you, as we always do, with Dave Foda and His Only Creed for Humankind. And we'll see you in a week.
I know the truth and power of reason and of rational thinking, and I will use them to my advantage. I know the truth and power of educating myself and of expanding my intellectual boundaries, and I will educate myself. I know the truth and power of vanquishing ignorance, and I will do so whenever the opportunity presents itself. I know the truth and power of morality without supervision, and of true and accurate righteousness. I know the truth and power of obliterating tyranny, be it intellectual, emotional, or philosophical, and will work toward that goal whenever and however possible. I know the truth and power of human ingenuity. I know the truth and power of human compassion, and I will be mindful of the welfare of others. I know the truth and power of equality and fairness for all living things. I know the truth and power of the importance of our families, our friends, and our fellow men and women. I know the truth and power of human stewardship of our lands, our waters, and our skies, and I will try to act to preserve our environment. I know the truth and power of the sciences of mathematics, of physics, and of chemistry, and of the important role of these disciplines in understanding the workings of this cosmos. I know the truth and power of the rejection of all notions or beliefs that reside in the supernatural or the superstitious, and of those notions or beliefs that we are not supposed to be able to explain. And I know that these rejections are necessary for humankind's survival. I am a human being with a free mind, liberated from irrational influence and from unreasonable dogma.